Resuming. Weird. World. Order. Broadcast. Dynaphones connected. Initiating broadcast signal in
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order broadcast. I am the man that you call Dukes, and to my right, it's all about the...
Booyah! What's up? It's your boy Joe, baby.
And to my other right, weighing in at 178 adamantium-filled pounds, Alfonso X-Man Flores.
I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice.
And ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, joining us today, artist Erik, the 4'9" guy, Arreaga. Welcome to the show, Erik.
What up, guys? Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us, Erik. And this is a episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. We are going to be having a conversation with Erik regarding him as well as his art, also the group that he runs, San Diego Comic-Con, which I personally have gotten a lot of information on. I have not missed a few deadlines due to everything that Erik and the group does. So thank you very much for that, Erik. And I'm excited to talk about Erik's coffee shop. He's got some great plans for the future for keeping us all caffeinated. So let's get into this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. Erik, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you'd like the NWO to know about you?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. I'm Erik Arreaga. I'm from San Diego, California, born and raised all my life here. I've been pretty much a nerd probably since, since I was in 5th grade. And I just from there started drawing, getting into all this comic stuff, and just been doing it ever since. I don't remember a day has gone by that I haven't at least doodled something. I think that's what all artists do, is we just constantly draw. And then being from San Diego, I got my start in San Diego exhibiting at Comic-Con, and I think it was like 97, 98. And I've been exhibiting there ever since. And then, but I've been traveling all over the world to other conventions. And, and then I started the San Diego Comic-Con group as well. So.
Awesome. So Joe and I are native San Diegans. We actually met in the city of Oside, Brothers for Life after that. So are you specific to San Diego, or what city are you from in SD?
Yeah. I guess I'm in the southern part in Chula Vista. Yeah. So, but I mean, I've grown up all over San Diego. I mean, San Diego's my playground. I've gone everywhere, and I've grown up with the city. So yeah, I mean, I consider myself a really hardcore San Diegan.
Nice.
Chargers.
Well, I was a Chargers fan for years. Jumped over to the Saints for a little bit.
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
And now I don't follow football as much, so at any time Joe could call me out, but I was a Chargers fan for years, which is probably why I stopped watching football.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So
I thought you guys were talking baseball.
Courtesy laugh. Let's see here. What got you interested initially in nerd culture?
I'm the youngest of the boys right here. So actually my older brother was the comic collector, and one time he was just looking through his comic books, and I just happened to pick one up too, and I was just kind of thumbing through it, and I was just like, I was more fascinated by the art, and I just kind of looked at it, and then one day I remember it was a Batman Robin cover. I always remember this, and he could never let me forget it. And I actually just recreated the drawing, like the cover, and ever since then I was just like, I'm kind of hooked on this drawing stuff, and that's where it just started. And I just started drawing and getting into all these artists, and then I was still young, and I was like, wait, you can get paid for doing this stuff. And I was just like, well, crap, why not? I'll give it a shot, and kind of just stayed hooked from then.
Nice. So being from San Diego, I know Jim Lee is from San Diego as well, and there's a lot of influence. Did you find that having a lot of local influence or a lot of artists between like Los Angeles and San Diego, like that really kept you motivated being so close?
Well, the one artist that kind of sealed the deal for me of getting into drawing was Will Portacio. Everyone was the Jim Lee fan. All my friends I grew up with, we kind of started our own little art studios, we did in our garages and stuff, and they were all Jim Lee fans, and I was like the only Will Portacio fan. And that's how I really decided I wanted to be an artist, is looking at his work. And I know he's from the area too. But I didn't even know these people were from the area until much later on, until I heard about like Homage Studios and Wildstorm and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, Wills is the one that like sealed the deal for me. And then I eventually got into all these other artists, all the Image guys, McFarlane. But the one that completely, and I tell this to everyone I meet at conventions, the one that sealed the deal for me and really changed my life was Sam Keith. Marvelous Comics Presents was just like a massive turning point once I got introduced to his artwork. And like a lot of people still now say, hey, I mean, are you influenced by Sam Keith? I mean, that to me is the biggest compliment, because he's like one of my all-time favorite artists. He's amazing. So
dude, that is wild, because that is actually one of the questions I was going to ask you, because when I look at your art, I always think like it's reminiscent of the Max. And so I look at it and I'm like, dude, this is so, like, I loved his art because it reminded me a little bit of like, you have like the Liefeld, Jim Lee, that particular style that blew up, but he was so unique in his proportions and the way that he did things. Like nobody was quite producing things the way he was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's the one that I finally understood the ideal of style. Everyone still had this kind of anatomic kind of correct type of thing going on, and then I saw his artwork and I was like, wait a minute, you don't have to draw Wolverine like this, you can draw him like this, and that's where that style just became this biggest thing. And then when he drew Cyber and Venom and things like, and then even like his versions of Ghost Rider and Cable, I mean, that stuff was just I couldn't, like, my little brain couldn't just take it in. It was just like studying all these little details he would put in there. And that's what I love. It was just the exaggeration. And so whenever I draw characters, like I love drawing Venom or Hulk or anything you can really, really mess with and go overboard with, I love doing, because it just reminds me of him. And earlier in my days, I was known as drawing Ninja Turtles like 24/7. So I got to draw them in a certain style, and people were like, wow. And this is when Turtles was actually becoming a new version, but they're like, wow, you're keeping the old Kevin Eastman style, but you have this really crazy gritty look that you're adding to it. And that's what I love. I love just doing that type of stuff and adding like this really hardcore dark flavor to anything that seemed childish or anything. That's what I love most of all, just doing anything.
Awesome.
Hey, Eric, have you ever showed any of your drawings to Sam?
Yes, actually. He's only been to San Diego a handful of times, and one of the times I was exhibiting, but I knew he was going to be there, and I just like, you know what, I'm leaving my boots just to go see this guy. I mean, he's here, he's my idol. And I dropped off one of my sketchbooks to him, and he thumbed through, and he was, and there was a Max piece in there, and he was just like, and all he says is, "Wow, this is awesome. This is very cool." And that was pretty much it. that was literally it. But yeah, I mean, just the idea of him saying like, hey, wow, this is great artwork was enough for me. So.
Right, just to acknowledge it. One of my favorites is the same, but there's Willis Patachio, because he created one of my favorite characters, which is Bishop.
Yes.
And he was pretty cool. All three of us, I think, have met him at I can't remember which con it was.
Yeah,
was it WonderCon maybe? I can't remember. But he had a picture of Bishop and he signed it for me, and he's pretty cool.
Yeah, Wells is really. I've met him a few times too. I actually know his brother-in-law, and I think he's kind of snuck in some of my artwork to him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, the guy I know is actually the guy that Dozer is based off of from Wetworks. Yeah. So and he's always bugging me. Hey, I want you to draw Dozer. I need to see you draw the version. But yeah, I would know. Wills is awesome. Wills is really, really great, and he's such a cool guy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. You know who isn't cool? Peter David. He's a punk.
I've heard a few stories.
Any way I can throw that guy in there if we're talking about artists and creators, and he's a punk.
Yeah. Patasio's always been one of my favorites too. I don't know if you can see my Wolverine right there with the ring light on it, but he's always been my favorite. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, okay. And I've always loved the way he's drawn Archangel. The Archangel wings that he does are amazing. That run he did in X Factor. I mean, that was, man.
Yeah. I don't know if he's ever said why he did that version, because he's literally the only person that did the wings that way. I mean, he that was weird, that especially coming from him, that he threw in a style in that form. Yeah. I always wanted to know why he did that.
I'm surprised nobody followed along with that, because I mean, it was awesome. And they're like, well, we can't build a toy like that. That's probably what it was. Yeah, exactly. And I agree, Sam Keith, he's amazing. I was so stoked for him when he got the MTV cartoon series. Yes. And then what was the name of the girl? Was it Julie? Was it Julie that hang around? Yeah. When he draw her like in the little like, I don't know, little bikini thing that she always had like a little pooch in her stomach. I'm like, the little pooch. Yeah. That is perfect. Nobody draws the pooch, and I gotta appreciate that.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what also I loved, is that he actually drew real women. No matter what. I mean, he's done a lot of Jean Grey and things like that, but he drew them in that form where they weren't like that perfect Model-esque thing. He drew them with an actual form, and but I think that all goes back to things like Frank Frazetta. I mean, that's the way he drew women. He just he knew his curves, and he knew the folds and everything. And that's what made it, him. That was his thing. And those details like that are just amazing, just knowing where to throw in a sexy curve or a fold in there. And yeah.
So Eric, what's your number one fandom?
My number one fandom, I don't know. It's changed throughout the years. I said, like, I in the beginning, when I started doing all this stuff, it was always Ninja Turtles, and I was a big Ninja Turtle fan for the longest time. And it just kind of spills out to everything. I don't like concentrate really on like one thing. I just kind of like a mixture of everything. I'm a Disney fan. I'm a Marvel fan. It's just everything. I don't really like focus on certain things in general. It's always it's everything's nerd to me. So as long as it really speaks to me as a nerd style, and I connect with it. Okay. But yeah, overall, I don't have like a specific thing that I always gravitate to or anything like that.
Gotcha. Well, I know you have spent some time at Disneyland. I see when you post on Disneyland and stuff. So I'm going to throw it out there, man. What is your favorite ride at both California Adventure and Disneyland? What's your favorite ride?
My favorite. Well, I think. Well, I can't. I mean, I have to go with the classic. It's just the Haunted Mansion. I think the Haunted Mansion is like just, and then especially when they turn it into the Nightmare Before Christmas thing, because that in itself has a big connection with me and my wife. I don't have it on right now, but one of our wedding rings, our wedding bands, are Nightmare Before Christmas band. So, so it just that is just something we always just treasure very dearly. So yeah, and that's something, and especially when my daughter was growing up and things like that, it was one of her favorite things to go on. So it's always been that. It's always like, how are we gonna revolve the day around, the Haunted Mansion? I gotta say though that of course, like Rise is an amazing ride. I mean, it's great. It's new, but it's definitely changed the way rides are done now.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy the new Mickey's Railroad because I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of the new Mickey cartoons that they have on Disney Plus. I love those cartoons that I could just rewatch those things over and over again. And I love actually being in a ride where that you're submerging all around you, So, but yeah, again, I think Haunted Mansion is probably my favorite. As far as California Adventure, wow, that's a good one. See, I'm not a roller coaster guy. I'm afraid of heights. So I gotta admit, I've never been on the Tower of Terror or Guardians.
Okay.
I'll throw it out there. So I'm showing my weakness. Because I'm really deathly afraid of heights. So I've never been on those. I'm sure I would love them, but I can't find myself to even Goofy's roller coasters is a little much for me.
Okay.
But I don't know. I really don't know. I don't go too much on the rides when we go over there. It's always a lot of eating and going into the art studio.
Awesome. Have you done the food passes that they do where you get a certain number of tickets and then you can sample all the foods?
We go during that time, but we haven't gone the food passes. We just kind of just jump around. We didn't know the whole, because we just got back into doing the annual passing. Yeah. And we didn't know the procedure of that. We were like, well, what are they doing? And then finally a friend of mine who is into all that, he kind of explained it. But by the time we went back to try it, it was all gone. Yeah. But no, we're foodies. We definitely go there and try everything, especially anything that has to deal with coffee. We grab all the cold brews, and all the cool little drinks over there. But we love those for sure.
Very nice. Have you tried the Pim's Cafe or the Pim's the different coffee drinks? Yes.
Yes, the praline. Yes.
Yes, those are so good.
I have that one is a good one. That I can't remember where on the list I had that. Me and my wife are rating a lot of them. My wife's favorite is in the Mexican restaurant in Disneyland, and it's a horchata cold brew, and that's her favorite. Mine, it kind of jumps around, but that one was, I think, like third or fourth on my list. I can't. The one that was the best, I don't think is there anymore. I think it was there like during the winter time. But that one was okay. That way, there's a lot of sweetness that's going into that one. I just tried the s'mores one that they have, and that one fails as a s'mores drink, but it's definitely a good drink if you need something sweet.
Wow. I didn't hear about that one. I'll have to check it out. Yeah. Let's see here. So, by the way, Tower of Terror, don't even bother, man. I go on that ride and I scream my head off, and I'm not even faking it. That ride is terrifying, man. Just terrifying. The feeling of falling is real on that ride. Don't even bother, man.
I can't do it. My daughter always tries to get me on, and I can't do it. I look up and I'm already scared, and I just can't do it.
That ride is glorious,
gloriously.
I've heard, but I just can't come to myself to. And someone knocks me out and puts me on there, and without me knowing, and I'm never gonna be able to get on that.
You should at least go through the line and pay attention to everything on the walls and everything, because it actually tells a story.
Yes, and I've heard that plenty of times. She's even said, "Just come with us in the line, and then just get off. Just move on. Don't get on the ride. Just move on." She's said that many times. So I think I'm gonna have to do that next time I go.
Definitely,
for sure. Yeah.
Looks like Amanda's jumping on live saying she's so glad that we're back. And Eric, she loves your art. She's doing the happy dance, whatever that is. So thanks for joining, Amanda. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks. That's awesome. Thank you.
So let's see here, Eric. So what's your favorite comic book overall all time?
There so many. I mean, that's just like asking again. I'm sure you will ask it later, but it's like asking your favorite movie. I mean, by this time, there's just so many. I mean, got to go with The Dark Knight Returns. I mean, original Frank Miller, Watchmen. I mean, the original, the Max. I mean, for me, I think the Max is still one of the most original characters out there, and I think he's so underrated. Yeah. What else? You know, I'm a big. I've enjoyed Spawn. I think Spawn has been pretty cool. Now, right? Like, I don't. At this moment now, I don't collect comic books anymore, only because I get so caught up of making my own things. I just don't have time to read anymore and doing other things. But yeah, it's pretty much any book I grew up with. But I would say, you know, like, can't beat The Dark Knight Returns. It's still one, or Watchmen. I mean, I think it's a tie between those two, because I mean, how well written those things are is just incredible. And you could literally debate those books for hours and hours and just talk about every single thing about it. And that's just like the writing part. You know, when I get with my artist friends, you know, we go through those and pick apart and how do you do this and this whole thing. And so yeah, I mean, I think those are the top two overall. Yeah, I think those are some of the, like, but again, the Max is probably one of my favorite characters in general, just because of how original he is.
As far as the Dark Knight and both Watchmen go, they both ultimately got, I'll say, comic book sequels. So Watchmen got prequels, you know, to sort of get backstories, things of that nature. And, you know, ultimately the television show, which was just amazing.
Yes.
It's like, that was sort of a sequel as well. But then we also have like Dark Knight Returns. I think they're up to 3 at this point. They're all written by Frank Miller. What's your thought on really good books having sequels or follow-ups?
Well, I never read any of the follow-ups of The Dark Knight Returns. I mean, I just stick with the original on that. And I mean, I probably would have done the same. You know, with the Watchmen, I never read any of the backstories. I just kind of enjoyed it as it was, and if there was a comic book, I didn't read anything. I wouldn't have read anything of the sequel. I just kind of watched the show just because it was there, and you know, I know everyone else was going to talk about it, so I just, like, me and my wife decided to watch the show, which I loved. I think that was probably one of the most really written shows ever. And I mean, I guess it depends. It really depends on. I mean, we don't need sequels. We don't need prequels. We really don't need any of it. I mean, it's always, I love when most stories are just kind of left to just like, okay, what do you think? And you kind of, that's where we have all these big discussions, and, you know, we get all nerd-like and attack each other with these things. But you know, if it's done right, like just like the Watchmen series, the TV series was done, I mean, I don't mind it. I never see any need for them though, but I'm glad they did the show and did it correctly, and really put some love into it. It kind of I think I personally love the Watchmen movie. I am a Zack Snyder fan. I'm a huge Zack Snyder fan, for the exception of certain things, but I personally, knowing a lot of history or reading about what he went through just to make the movie, can really appreciate the art form and what he did to come up with the movie. So I think the series kind of made up for a lot of not mistakes, but in general, just things that people wanted in the movie, and they kind of made up for it in the series. And I love that we got that, and it just, you know, really took love from the book and everything to like really just tie it all together.
Eric, did you see a sequel to a movie, or you read a sequel that you change your mind on anything that has a sequel, whether it's a book or a movie? Because it seems like you don't entertain anything that's a sequel or prequel, just the original.
I want to say yes. I'm trying to think of what I saw that they made a sequel to, but I just was like, I can't remember. I want to say yes, but maybe this is how bad the sequel. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
But offhand, no. I mean, I know I've said, like, wow, they really needed to stay away from that. I can't think of it right now, honestly. I know I have said that though. What you're asking, I know I've said it for something.
Well, you're probably thinking, you know, Thor 3, Doctor Strange 2.
Okay, well, you don't have to
bring Black Panther 2. You know, that's probably leaving your bad taste like it does everybody else.
Yeah. Thor 3, I'm not even sure it can be considered a Marvel movie at this point. And then, Doctor Strange Multiverse was personally one of my bigger disappointments, for sure. What they're doing over there, I just don't get. But I mean, hey, you know, I guess they're making their money.
Yeah.
However,
I am hearing really good things about the Flash movie, Flashpoint.
Yeah. So almost saw it last night. Almost got a free screening, and we got cut. We were the I think the 30th in line, and they cut us off. Ooh, so they got filled up. They gave us extra passes because there's another screening happening next week. So we're hopefully gonna see that next week early.
Very
nice.
Yeah.
Same spot?
No, it's gonna be in Plaza Bonita.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Yeah. The screening was yesterday was at Mission Valley Mall. But we got there. We got there kind of late, so it was kind of a big lottery to figure out if we're going to get in or not. But
right, okay, cool, man. That's awesome. I hope you like it. Speaking of movies, what is your favorite movie?
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, I guess you got the original Ninja Turtle movie. Original Ninja Turtle movie is one of my favorites. It just kind of goes up. It's it's just there's so many that's come out, and through my life, you just it's hard to just pick one. I think Seven is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm a big fan of all those types of serial killer type things. But yeah, I love Seven. Recently, I mean, Spider-Verse. I can't wait for the next Spider-Verse movie. I think that's gonna be an incredible movie. I love that. I guess it just depends on what you're in what form. If you say what's your favorite Disney movie or what's your favorite superhero movie, or they all have their own thing. Right. It doesn't just come down to just one that I'm just this is it.
Yeah.
Aliens and Predator and things like that. Predator 2. It just depends on what you're asking, but it goes all over the place. Yeah.
Gotcha. So as far as becoming an artist, you talked about Sam Keith and Will Portasio. When you decided that you were going to make that leap, was there a particular book, or what was it that really made you say hey man, I can do this?
Yeah, well, again, when I saw it was Portasio's Uncanny X-Men, and it was his first appearance of Bishop, pretty much, where it started, and then I know he was on X Factor for a while, but those were the books that I just saw and was just man, this is amazing, but I just remember being so wow, this is credible, and everyone had X-Men with Jim Lee and everything, and I was but Will Portasio, look at this is cool, and and I was kind of the shunned one, yeah, okay, that's cool, but look at Jim Lee, so I don't know, I always found his work much more I guess stylistic. I guess I was always interested in style, and I just didn't know it until Sam Keith just knocked me out with his work. And I just saw more. And then again, after seeing Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, and all of Mark Silvestri and all those guys, I saw that they all had their own styles. But again, it just came down to that one point. I just saw Sam Keith, and I was just holy crap, what am I looking at here? And I remember just studying those books forever, just looking at each panel and and everything was just all the guys had this design in their panels, but Sam Keith had art, it was a masterpiece page, and I couldn't just keep my eyes off it, and so it was the Uncanny X-Men that just really did it for me, and I really started honing on, okay, now I know I could play with my artwork and just be who I want to be in this form, and then just go off from there. But yeah, I would just but in the very beginning I would credit Will Portasio with the Uncanny X-Men and all that stuff, because it was just that was just wow, I want to be this artist. I want to be this and do things like this. So
awesome. Very awesome. So as an artist, traveling to different cons. Joe and I spend some time at conventions. Nerd World Order has a t-shirt company, so we would hit up the booths, and I'll tell you, man, that is possibly the most exhausting stuff, in my opinion. You're at the booth and you're talking to people, and either the day goes by real fast or it goes by real slow. So just tell me overall, man, what do you feel like life is like at the cons? Like, what does the day feel like for you?
Conventions are, for me, it's always like, no matter what it is, other than San Diego Comic-Con, all the shows I always have this weird mixed feelings on, because I know going to shows, I'm excited because I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm taking my art, I'm gonna talk to people, and we're just gonna get this energy, and it's just gonna be all this cool stuff. But then at the same time, I know I have to go and sell my stuff. And the overall for me is I hate business. I hate business aspects of anything. Because if I were into business, I would have become a businessman, not an artist. That's the way I always view everything. I just hate the idea of like I have to sell my work. And a lot of times my friends or my wife would be like, you didn't sell anything. You were talking for like an hour. It's like, yeah, because I'm not trying to sell anything. I just people have stopped to notice my artwork, and I'm glad they did, and and I appreciate it. If they want to buy it, they'll buy it. But I just hate that the next step of like, okay, well, you want to buy this, and hey, check, I hate that pressure of being that business person. It's actually what turns me off if I walk around in Artist Alley and the first thing are like, hey, this is it. My book is blah blah blah. I hate that. That's so that'll turn me away right away, and I'll go to the next person who's not trying to sell me something, and I'll end up talking to them, because if the art is speaking to me, it'll speak to me. I'm not trying to sell you my art. I want you to appreciate what it is, and then we can go from there. But going to all these shows and doing these things, it's great. I love it. And I get to meet, thousands of people a year. And it's just the energy. The biggest part for me is just having the energy of the convention. You feel like the excitement. You feel people are there for the purpose of being nerdy and just really want to get into, what's happening. And then when they talk to you, you're just like, yeah, we're nerds and we could talk about whatever we want, can Wolverine and Ripley really have a relationship, and blah blah blah, let's debate this, and so I love it in that form. But when when it comes to the business side, it's just kind of like, okay, well, you want to buy something, buy it, and then we'll move on from there. But I'd rather just talk and you get to know me and just understand who I am and appreciate my art for what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting because if I know an artist or if I've gone to their booth multiple times, I actually try to stay away from them, because I feel like if I go over and I start talking to you about like our favorite show or a movie we watched, or even if it's just like, hey, how's your day going, man? I feel like you ever like you're talking to someone and someone comes by and they start flipping through your book. And it's like, but you're talking to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
I always feel like, oh man, they could have got that sale, but I'm interrupting, So
yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, it's like a delicate dance, when artists and guys at the booth, and you want to be supportive, but at the same time, you don't want to interfere with, like you said, it's for that period of time, it's your art, but it's your business,
Yeah. I get that all the time. It's there's always 50 of those moments every time I go to a show, and when for me personally, when it comes to me, I personally rather keep talking. I in that type of example, I just say, hey, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm always available, and turn back and start my conversation. It's never like, okay, hey, that's $5 for $20, blah blah blah, and this whole thing, just leave the money and you could run. Yeah. No, I rather, let the person know that I'm available, but I'm there for, whole reason of, the how do you say, like, the appreciation of knowing that we're all there for a reason. Convention, I'll say like this: conventions for me is like Superman in the sun. It helps me get my energy back. It helps me, feel like, okay, I am doing this for a purpose. I'm not just coming to the show and people are just kind of like, not ignoring. It helps me, build up my confidence and the inspiration to go back home and start working more and do more artwork. I see it in that form because I just build off of all that positive energy that happens in shows.
Well, what I found tough is like when me and Alan, to this point, we walk by and we look at artists, it's kind of like everybody in the comic world, everybody's a rapper. And so you got all these rappers that are going, hey, check out my tape, dude. Listen to my tape, dude. You're going to like it. What kind of music you listen to? What kind of this? The ones that me and Alan find ourselves gravitating to is the art. So if we walk over and we see something dope, I mean, there's quite a few times I'm like, Alan, check out this art, bro. This art's pretty sick. And we walk over there and we look. If we walk over there and look, we're already going to buy something. Because that's why we don't just stop to look and then walk away.
Yeah.
When you start talking and you're like, come on, bro, like, I don't, like, to your point, I don't need it. Hey, this is for $5, for $3, for $2.
Yeah.
Like you like how you want to get to know people and you talk to them and you feel out the energy. If we were looking through your stuff and you say, yeah, this is because of this and this character does this, now you're piquing my interest even more, because if it's something very interesting, you're going to get two things. Myself or Alan are going to buy something, or it'll be like this. Hey, yo, Eric, you want to hop on the podcast and talk about what you created? So there's two different ways we go and look at it. So not only are we trying to support an artist or a creator, both ways through financial, investing in their product, but also having them come on our product as well. So it benefits all of us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And a lot of times actually, I find myself actually pulling people in because I'll notice, I don't know if it's a cosplayer or even simply like someone's wearing a cool shirt, and I'll just be like, oh man, I love your shirt. That's awesome. It'll have like a certain artist on there, and then from there we just have this whole conversation, and we just talk, and I'll be like, oh, I've been here. Let me see what you have, and and lots of times it's like, no, don't worry about that. I mean, if you want to look, feel free, but it wasn't, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm here because, I appreciate you coming to a convention, hanging out with all of us, and we just can talk. And most of the time when if you come to my booth or anything, you'll rarely actually, hear me actually force the sale or anything, or like, if you want to know, I could say it really quick what the prices are, but don't feel obligated. You have to buy something, and I think I know people need that. I know, especially if they're coming from like to San Diego Comic-Con, it's expensive and they need to make those sales, and it has to happen. I get it in that form, but sometimes just the over like, okay, so are you gonna buy something? Did you want? That's the media. Like, okay, well, I'm good. Thanks. I'll follow you on Instagram or whatever, and then just kind of walk away and things like that. But yeah, for me, I try not to focus on it too hard, because I think it'll frustrate me more if there isn't a sale. But at least I got the satisfaction of actually having a conversation and nerding out with somebody.
So speaking of San Diego Comic-Con, which we've all mentioned quite a few times, and I would say that for a while it's been like the ultimate destination for all nerds to make San Diego Comic-Con, and you have an amazing group where you keep us all in the loop. And I'm just going to tell you, man, thank you so much for putting the group together, man, because I mean, there's been a lot of times, like for instance, I was waiting for my my pro verification, and these guys can tell you I was freaking out, dude, like big time, because I'm like, dude, they said it was going to be on this date, and they haven't said anything, and I emailed them 3 times, and then you sent out an email, and you're like, hey, everybody, start checking your email, because if you're waiting for your pro badges, they're going to send you those verifications here pretty soon. So thanks, man, so much for putting that together.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It actually was. I think the last one. What I got a memory, and I think it was when I started. I think it started in 2014. I think that's when it started. And it only had like 50 members at the time. But I had started because I was constantly in my when Messenger was just started coming out during Facebook. I was getting flooded with people from like May to July. How do I go to Comic-Con? And I was just like, dang, like I was answering all these messages, and I was just like, I'm getting tired of answering these things. So that's why I said, I'm just gonna start a group. I'm just gonna start a group just to get you the idea of what you need to do. I'm tired of answering these things for you. And then that's just how it started. I just there was a couple, like I think it started with like 50 members, and it kind of stayed very low for a couple of years. Like I think for like 3 years, it already had only gone up to like maybe 400 members. But I remember one year I got, and my Facebook was just like lit up with like these notifications. I was like, what happened? Like what did I do or something wrong? And I went, and literally I think a few thousand people had joined. And I was like, wow, what happened? Like what did something did San Diego Comic-Con say something or what? And and it just started going from there. And then from that point I was just getting requests, and it just kept going through and through and through. And as more people started to get in there and who actually know San Diego Comic-Con, they started actually helping out and answering people's questions. And I wasn't like no longer even doing the work anymore. And and then it just started growing and getting bigger. And I was just like, wow, right now I think we're at 34,000 people in the group. And and it's super cool that just this many people are interested and that need help, and more than happy to help everyone. Because my thing, and this is a really big thing with me, is I always tell people, if you want to go to San Diego Comic-Con, you should really be able to experience at least once. Always. And I've gone, and for me personally, it's usually people who are international, who are outside the country, and I've helped quite a few people from the UK, Africa. I know it's not international, but in Puerto Rico and things like that. I've gotten them tickets to go in. I just like they say, this is my dream, this is what I always want to do, and it's like, okay, well, just as long as you can book a flight, you can get in. That's it. And and they've come, and they're like, you've made I thought it was a bucket list that was never going to get checked off, and you've done it. I was like, but everyone should at least try to go once, and just experience it. And the idea that anyone international, and I see it in the group all the time, people are saying they're coming from like UK or Australia, things like that. Those are the ones I appreciate the most, because I mean, it's really just, it's a Comic-Con, and you're making this massive trek all the way to San Diego just for pulp culture. And that to me, I try to show as much appreciation in that as possible, because that's a beautiful thing. I mean, the idea that we can relate in this nerd level on different countries is really important to me. So so anyone who's ever traveled internationally, I really, really appreciate them very much. It's a big deal.
Hey, when I first stumbled upon your group, I totally thought you were an official page and you were like some kind of San Diego ambassador. I was like, hey, this is pretty nice. And then I seen you at a couple cons. Hey, Eric, and you're like, hey, and you see your wife like, who's that? I don't know. But yeah, you guys are doing some good work there, man. I've been there a few times looking at that information that, it's like, wow. I'm glad I know that now, because even though I've gone many, many times, it's like sometimes, things just slip through the cracks. There's so much happening everywhere. And, and some people just, out there, if for some reason you can't get tickets, there's no reason why you can't go down to San Diego and just hang around outside of the Comic-Con with no badge, because you will still see a lot of fun stuff.
100%. I say it all the time. Yep.
I definitely appreciate everything you're doing, man. It's good work.
Thank you. Thanks. And at the same time, I don't want to say or give, take all the credit. I do want to say and shout out to the SD Comic-Con blog. They do a lot on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the information I do is I kind of repost them just into the group, because they really do some really intense, heavy research. So I just, they do it, and I just, repost it into the group now, and let them get the views and everything. But for me, it's all the same. It's just like whatever makes people's experience as stress-free as possible. I know that's kind of hard, but whatever it makes them feel relaxed and not have knowledge when they're there, no matter if it's from my group or their page or whatever. That's the goal. And again, the unofficial SDC blog group, they deserve a lot of credit as well, because they do a lot of research. And again, I just kind of use their information, just post it into the group. Yeah. So, but again, that's the whole reason. After it became just like, okay, well, here's the information. Okay, well, now that you have the information, let me tell you how to make it as stress-free as possible now. Like once you're here, because that's a whole other level of being here. That's what you want, and not getting lost. And that's why I don't know if you guys seen it. I do it every year. I even did it during the pandemic when it was closed, but I do what I call the Comic-Con walk. And I actually go live the week of Comic-Con. It's usually on the Monday, and I walk all of downtown San Diego. I go up and down the streets.
Wow.
I show everyone where things are in comparison to the convention center, just so you know that it's walkable, that you can get to one place or another in no more than 20 minutes. Nice. And so I clock in, I think 20,000 steps during that time. But then I do that every year. It's just now my tradition to do it. And again, I did it when Comic-Con wasn't even during COVID. But I still had to do it because it was just, I wanted people to see what San Diego downtown is like. And that you should feel comfortable. It's not as crazy and stress as some people make it. You can walk from one place to another and you'll be fine. So yeah, and I plan on doing it again this year.
That was in my notes right here to thank you for 2020's commentary. It's like everybody was missing it so much, and everybody was so secluded at home and just hating life, right? And you brought us a piece of happiness that even though nothing was going on, it was nice to see that warm, comforting San Diego convention center.
Yeah, no, I get the memories on that. And I remember very emotional time. A lot of crying behind the scenes. I'm not gonna lie, because it was because Comic-Con is my time. It's my time. Even my wife and my family know that Comic-Con week is my New Year's. I really consider it my New Year's. Nice. Once that's done, then I work for the whole, it's a whole new thing. And it means a lot to me. And overall, San Diego is my passion. Just my city. I love my city. And so knowing during that time that a lot of people were going to get hurt and affected financially by not having a show that year, it was killing me. And knowing that I know all cities were affected, but it was just hurt that my city was going to be really hurt during that time, and people were going to lose their jobs, and people were sick, and I always really try to focus on San Diego in general, and really push a lot of things so people can know how amazing San Diego is.
It's interesting because as far as San Diego Comic-Con goes, for me, I wouldn't call it, like my time, but as far as bonding with people and making relationships with people, that's always been my thing. Like I started going to Comic-Con in the early 80s. My dad took me to my first Comic-Con back when it was at the Concourse. And that's probably one of my biggest memories, was like, damn, Dad took off a day from work to take me to this nerd thing, and like he handed me like $40 and said, "Have at it, kid." And I was like, "Oh, wow. $40. Yeah, the most money I ever had in my life, right?" And then like Joe and I had so many cons together, and like Alfonso like recently got to do like cons with us, and And for me, just that emotion that you get being inside the con, it's just like it can't be replaced for me.
Nope.
But
100%.
I was wondering, like, I remember con and the concourse. I remember when Marvel and DC were like the big thing, and then the Movio Studios came along, and now they're migrating away. What do you see as the biggest change in SDCC since you've started, really monitoring how it's been going?
So my first year was 91, and 91 was the first year it's in the current convention. And it was just A through C. That's all it was. And they were still working on the rest, D through H. The biggest change is the I don't want to say it negatively. How can I put a good spin on it? Screw it. It's the lack of appreciation for artists. I think is the biggest thing. And of course Hollywood is taking over. And even now Hollywood is getting kind of screwed over, and it's more of the streaming services that are actually beating the movies now. And that's what I see moving forward, is that I think the streaming services are gonna, top out movie studios in general. Even though they say, oh, this is Warner Brothers, but HBO Max is the one who's holding them. So, you're going to hear about, or what I think they launched today, Max. You're going to hear more about Max, and, you could see the new blah, blah, blah movie, even though it was done by Warner Brothers. So who cares, as long as it's on Max. Yeah. So I think what we're going to, starting now, especially after the pandemic, it's all going to be about streaming services. So I think even like Hollywood is getting, or big movie studios are going to get beat out by the streaming services. Now how it moves forward because of the writer strikes and all that stuff, we'll see. But I think it's just the overall lack of art appreciation and the idea to focus on artists, because it's all the beginning. Like, well, I mean, you can't have Spider-Man without a creator, and the creator needed an artist. Then everything, like, so. And then it only became a movie because of these guys. So I wish there would be more focus, especially at San Diego Comic-Con, for artists. I wish there was a much more larger group, especially like the Artist Alley, how it's shrunk so much over the years. And I'm hoping they get some love back for knowing that some, certain studios and companies aren't coming back to Comic-Con this year. Hopefully they can make up for more artists in that form. But yeah, I think it's just more the lack of artists that's really been the big shift. And you hear it all the time, like, yo, we gotta go and support the artists, support the indies and stuff like that. But are people really doing that, and are people really listening? And I think that needs to be a big focus, and not only just at San Diego Comic-Con, at any convention, that you go straight to small press, or independent corner, or whatever, or Artist Alley, and and appreciate the artists and writers who are making all these things.
Yeah, I totally agree with your point. That's the one thing that me and Alan's always discussing. As good as Comic-Con is, it's lost its mystique about it, to where we find that in smaller cons. So when we go to like Ontario Comic-Con or even WonderCon, because it's so smaller and it's not Hollywood driven, you're able to see more of the artists and the writers, as opposed to the actors in the Hollywood studio, whether it's streaming or movies. I don't know if you ever been to Anime Expo.
No.
The reason why I like Anime Expo is it's one of the biggest anime conventions. It's pretty much San Diego Comic-Con of anime.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so the one thing, and Alan got to experience it last year, the one thing dope about is when it's at the LA Convention Center, at the very bottom of the floor is Artist Alley.
Oh, wow.
And it's packed.
Wow.
It is packed. Nothing but artists on the bottom. So you can walk by people that create like maybe pins, T-shirts, drawings of the anime characters. The whole bottom is that. And then you have your top floor where they, you still have some artists there, but also you get T-shirts, Funko Pops, figurines, what have you. But they dedicate the bottom floor to nothing but the artists.
Yeah.
And people go there and they buy it. So if you do build it and create it, they will come. And I feel that's something that San Diego has lost because they, maybe in their mind, they make more money if they have Hollywood actors come down. And, I feel like you could experience Hall H one time. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like you need to camp out 4 days to be in Hall H. It's like, I'm not knocking, a lot of people like to experience the Hall H, and that. Yeah. But I feel, and I'm hoping to your point, when a lot of those companies take away from going to Comic-Con, you're going to get less of that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know what really is the overall issue of not giving artists more at San Diego, because, and just like that, I mean, we don't have, or Artist Alley doesn't have to be on the main floor. At New York Comic-Con, it's kind of the same thing. You have a main floor, and then underneath you have an Artist Alley, and they're kind of given their own entire room. And I mean, I don't know if it's a safety thing or fire marshal thing or whatever, or just cost thing, but at San Diego, if you go upstairs to many of the rooms, they're all vacant. And I just never understood why they couldn't just give an Artist Alley room. It might take a walk, but if you have your big name artists in there, people will find you, and eventually be like, oh no, Artist Alley is just up those stairs, and that's all you got to do. And you're just given this whole new floor of artists, which is why I never understood why they don't do something like that. Again, I don't know if it's safety, cost, I don't know, but I wish it would be something more that they would extend to artists at Comic-Con, because it's definitely needed. And then they can give the floor to whoever they want, as far as like the big studios or something. Yeah.
Erik, I'd like to get caffeinated for a moment. And when you mentioned a comic book coffee shop, I was like, dude, that is a awesome idea. So just walk me through it. What's the concept?
Yeah, so it's something that it started off as actually a joke during COVID. So currently, for the meantime, I've actually worked for a big named coffee shop place. Mm-hmm. You guys can guess probably what it is. And I have so for 20 years. And so during the pandemic, a lot of, actually towards the end of when we were kind of coming out of it, people were doing test runs of stuff. There was actually a coffee shop that was opening that we wanted to go support in National City in San Diego. And, we went and the line was like 45 minutes long, but we were like, no, we're going to stick it out because we want to support these Latina women with their coffee shop. Let's do this. As we're waiting, my wife kind of just was like, you should start your own coffee shop, because you've done it for so long, blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, and it's just and then she said, you should do a comic book coffee shop, and and it literally was just a joke for like 15 minutes, and then it became like a joke to like ideas, like, oh yeah, well we could do this and we could do this, and literally by the time we get at the end of that line, when we ordered our coffee, we almost had a full model of what we wanted to do in this coffee shop.
Nice.
And so literally for the next 3 or 4 months, it was nothing but focused on, we're going to create this coffee shop. And this was in 2020, I believe, like towards the end of 2020. And so we started thinking of just different things and coming up with some ideas. And then we started to move forward with it. Like, hey, let's do this coffee shop. Let's get a crowdfunding. Let's try to do it. And we did the crowdfunding. It didn't. Our goal was highly unrealistic, and we didn't meet it. But we learned from it. And so as we were going to try to do something more again, life happens. A lot of things happen. So we had to delay it and stop it for 2 years. And so now that we're kind of okay, we're kind of back on a track. And the beginning of this year, my wife and I was like, okay, now it's full force. Let's do this coffee shop. So so the idea and the coffee shop is called Pow Coffee Shop. And again, it's going to be a comic book themed coffee shop. And what we tell everyone, it's not confused. It's going to be a comic book store with coffee in it. No comic books are being sold. Maybe independent ones, but no, it's not a comic book store. It's going to be a comic book themed coffee shop where we have created characters for the shop in itself. So we have a lot of little cool characters that are going to be around. And the idea is just to be a creative space to have just artists or creators or whatever come in and have a central place where people can actually come and have a drink and create, draw, do whatever they want. On Wednesdays, once you pick up your comic books, come over to the coffee shop and read your comic books and let's nerd out and talk about it. Yeah, we really, our main thing is to focus on community, and really bring in people and show how inclusive we are. You have a safe space to be in, and and just get together and nerd out. I mean, just have a fun nerd place to be. And the overall, like, what we're planning to do is when you order your coffee and how you order your coffee, it's kind of like creating your own character. You give yourself a certain power or a certain ability or a certain this, and it's just you adding your cool little, extra shot or a certain flavor or anything like. And at the end, you can even name your character, and we'll call it out. Captain Doodle, your drink's ready, and and that's what it'll be. But yeah, so it's gonna. We wanted to make sure that it's a very fun and creative place, fun place to be, because it doesn't seem like there's too much of that happening anymore. It's kind of like if you go to a coffee shop or just somewhere just to hang out. It seems to have your drink, or you just go, or you kind of hang out, but there's nothing happening. We want people to enjoy their environment and have a fun place to go. And a lot of it, it's going to be very artist driven. I have a lot of artists, some big name artists who have still asked about the coffee shop. And so we want to keep that idea of like a limited edition, like a comic book. So when we do our merchandise, say like we have a cool tumbler, and they'll draw our characters on the tumbler. We'll have a certain big name artist draw it. We'll have a full event for them. They'll be there signing the whole thing, and again, keeping to the limited edition. Let's say there's only 100 of this tumbler, and there's 100, and that's it. You miss out, but that's what a limited edition is. We want to keep that idea of that whole comic book feel in there. But yeah, again, and it's just a cool, fun place for people to go. And we're looking to, so the overall also big thing about it is the size. We're looking for a good size coffee shop, something a little bit bigger than your normal coffee shop because of the amount of events we're planning on holding. Because we want to have a movie night. We want to put on mini conventions, like a little just artist alley con only in the shop. So, there's just artists all over the place. Maybe, people who are just selling trinkets, whatever, things like that. Again, a lot of events is our focus, and again, just bringing community in there, but all with this cool comic book themed motif happening. And we have like tons of ideas. We have a lot of ideas that we want to do for this.
Amanda says that's sounds like an awesome idea for a coffee shop. and she loves a good hangout spot, and hopefully she'll be able to visit sometime. And I have to agree, because everything that you said, like the inclusivity, that's always been a really big thing for, all three of us and everyone who's in the Nerd World Order, which is like one of the things we always said is like growing up, like people didn't think we were nerds because, oh, you don't look like a nerd. Well, bro, what does a nerd look like? Or like a safe space. I feel like every person should be able to, walk into, whether it be a coffee shop or a comic book shop or a bookstore, no matter where you are, you should know that you can express yourself in a way, as long as you're not offending other people. You should be able to feel safe in that space, so I'm loving everything you're saying, man. And my big thing is, and I'm going to speak on behalf of my two brothers here, let us know what we can do to support you in any way, man.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
no, I appreciate that. Thank you. We will be doing a crowdfunding again very soon. I think one of the big things that I guess that didn't meet our goal last time is because people need to see location. They need to see that location is there, and that we're not just talking. And so that's the focus right now. So once we lock in that location and what we're gonna do, we'll show you the ugly, beat up drunk or building that's there, and we'll say this is what we need to make into the coffee shop, help us. And then I think people will then be more on board on it and be like, oh yeah, what do we need to do to fund this? And that's I think that was our kind of mistake the first time around. So that's what we're working on right now. It's just the overall location, and which we're hoping to be very, maybe the outskirts or even closer into downtown San Diego. That way during Comic-Con or any big events, we can always be like, hey, it's right here, and come by and check out something different. Because we want to be that location you see on TikTok or Instagram, like, oh my God, in San Diego, there's this place that's this nerd coffee shop, and we want to be that, and we really want to make people happy and really feel welcome in a space like that. But yeah, no, for sure. And one of the things also what we're planning to do is once we're in there is we plan on having a podcast corner. That way, anyone who has a podcast, which we're planning to do our own podcast, but anyone who has a podcast can set up there and do a podcast and be like, hey, let's talk with some coffee around us, and then and you just kind of enjoy the area. And so yeah, we're really thinking of everybody, gamers, cosplayers. You come in cosplaying. I mean, it could be an average Sunday. You come in your cosplay and you get 10% off your coffee or whatever, and and be okay knowing that, hey, I'm cosplaying and this is the place I can do it on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. So so there's a lot of things that we want to do, and yeah, I appreciate, and if you can get the word out in any form. But yeah, we're looking to do some crowdfunding hopefully pretty soon.
Yeah, just definitely, obviously we'll keep in touch, but when you get to that point, I'll make sure that it goes out in our little Nerd World Order community, and all of our different media outlets. We'll even have Joe put something on his TikTok.
Nice.
So. Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And don't forget, Uncanny X-Memes can throw some shout outs there, because I've got a lot of cosplayers that follow me. So
nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, you know what? I feel like we've definitely covered a lot, and it's, to me, I enjoy having conversations with people who I feel like give back. People can be successful and keep to themselves, but when you extend your hand to help other people, I feel like that's what I respect, and that's what I get excited about. And when you say that you don't like business, I'm exactly the opposite. My wife tells me all the time, she's like, dude, you can't turn everything into a business. Find something you love that you don't turn into a business. But at the same time, man, I just really love the ideas that you have, your passion for the art, and you're helping people. whether it be with the SDCC group or, looking at creating a place, like a physical place where people can go and be nerds and feel comfortable doing that. That's amazing, man. Absolutely.
No, and I think it's a place that people need it for. Especially with young kids, they need that. They need that environment. If we're gonna keep this nerd culture going forward, they need to know that they're being supported in every way. So, from kids to the big kids like us, it's what we need. We need to know that we're all supporting each other. So.
Absolutely. So, Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you. See if you have any additional things you'd like to cover. Any final thoughts, if you will?
No. If you guys are going to San Diego Comic-Con this year, I'm going to be there. I will be in my same corner booth I've had for I think the past 15 years. E12, and I will say this out loud so when you can hear, I'm not an artist alley. Not an artist alley. I get it every year. Like, I can't find you in artist alley. I'm not there. I'm in the lower numbers between 600 and 700. If you need to find me, that's where I'm. And again, I'm just in this little corner area, right in one of the main aisles. So, and I will be there and hanging out. So if anybody's coming to Comic-Con, feel free to hang out with me, even before, during, and after the show. There's a lot of events that are going to be happening and a lot of parties that I'll be going to. So, and just come by, check out. I'm doing my own books now. I'm going to premiere just a teaser of my new book that I'm doing. But again, I just love to just hang out and talk to everybody and chat. And just, if you want to know more about the coffee shop, again, please just ask me. I'm more than happy to let you know more about that in any form, if you can help or whatever. So again, I just feel free to find me at Comic-Con this year.
And that concludes this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, I am NWO.
We are NWO.
Nurture defined.
Booyah!